States. So he's been thinking bigger for a while now. With that size of installation comes some really unique requirements that he's going to talk about today. It's my pleasure to welcome Adam Roberts.
Thanks, Fred. All right, I'll try to speed this along a little bit. I know we're running a little bit behind here. So, as Fred said, I'm here from right here in Las Vegas, Clark County School District. I actually work for the school police. We have our own police force here. And we are the very large school district. One thing that's unique about us and what we do about the other four that are larger than us is that we're not a consolidated school district. We operate as one very, very large school district. So we've got 300,000 students and 35,000 employees that we have to protect. We do this over 8,000 square miles. Clark County is a very big county. A little bit about security systems. We've got over 11,000 cameras. We'll probably be over 12,000 cameras by the end of the year. Those cameras are at 381 facilities, and we also do intrusion systems. And our department is only staffed with 15 people. It includes my boss, the director, and a secretary, and 6 field technicians and their boss. So we do a lot with very little. So Clark County, or CCSD, Clark County School District, Police Department is fully accredited. We've got detectives, we've got internal affairs, we've got a chief. So a real police department that operates within the school district. We provide CCTV, intrusion, access control, central station monitoring, and a lot of other little things. We also do some video review for sites that don't have it. This department was created underneath the police department only 6 years ago. Prior to that, we were a facilities function. So we became a department. That's when I came over. The director came on, and we hired a lot of people. I think we still only have about 5 people left that was in the original group. So a few years ago, we decided, it's time to move to VMS. What do we need to do? And how are we going to accomplish this? My very first thing that I said that we needed to do when we did this was it needed to be a low cost of administration. We need to be able to do this with just 2, maybe 3 people at times. So it needed to be a system that can function with very little interaction once it's set up. It needed to be supported, or at least the software that we use needed to be supported on Windows Server 2008 R2 at the time, which is a 64-bit operating system. For most of you guys already know that the 32-bit cannot be upgraded to 64-bit directly. So we wanted to start with 64-bit. I knew that at the time, 64-bit was the future, 32-bit was going away. We did not want to have an upgrade process with starting out and having to plan an upgrade process, just a few years later. It needed to support the Sony encoders that we already decided that we were going to use because it was going to be able to function with our existing infrastructure. So being able to just go in, put an encoder in, put our existing analog system on that, it be able to function with PTZ control and the analogs that we had. It had to be able to do that. It also had to be where we were the integrator. So that's one thing that's unique about a lot of the other end users that have spoken, is that we are our own integrator. We do everything ourselves. One thing that wasn't so much a criteria, but I got it down here, but it was really important for us when we made the decision to move to Milestone VMS was we're fortunate to have to be here in Las Vegas and get to be able to go to ISC West every year. It's right down the street, so we're able to do that every year, and that's a big benefit for us. So a few years ago, when we were looking into this, I had the opportunity to meet with the few of the guys from Milestone that came out from Copenhagen. And they came over and we sat down and we talked about what our needs were. And they told me about where their company was moving to and what they were looking at and their background. And that was really important to me because I knew where they were coming from. My background has been 20 years in technology, IT. So I came from the IT side of the house. So being able to sit down and talk to these guys and know that they understood me and what our needs were was really important, and that was a big factor there. So moving forward, we had some challenges, obviously. We're so big, we're so short-staffed. With 11,000 cameras at over 300 sites, across 8,000 square miles, how are we going to do this? There was no indication or nobody was going to say, hey, listen, if you guys do this, we're going to give you more people to support this. We had to do it with the people that we had and be able to progress. We also had to account for the amount of people that we have that move around from school to school, from administration sites, and be able to account for that. And how can we do that? How can we have users in the system here and then be able to know what's going on with them out there? Communication between such a large organization doesn't happen very often, or very often. Budget cost justifications. People are going to ask, how are you guys able to afford to be able to move to something like this? Why are we still, why don't you just do what we've always been doing? But as most of you know, deploying legacy equipment costs more now than putting in VMS. The cost is kind of flip-flopped from years ago. It actually cost us less to go in and put VMS in, and it's such a benefit to have over what the old systems were. We also came up with a thing that said, you know what, we got to get rid of these PTZ cameras. We don't do a whole lot of active monitoring in our school district. Almost all of it is investigation reviews. So we said, hey, listen, you know what, we're going to go in, we're going to take down the PTZs where we can and put up analog cameras to replace them. And even if we put up 3 analog cameras, fixed cameras, to replace a PTZ, that's less than we're having to repair or replace the PTZ that was there. In a lot of cases, if we're within distance, we have a lot of twisted pair infrastructure. So if we're in distance and we're able to do it and the infrastructure is there, we're able to put an HD camera in and still save money. And if the camera that we took down, the PTZ camera we took down, goes back into repair socket, it was functioning. So now we have all these cameras out there, and we're able to keep our existing, the older stuff up by taking down and putting up newer stuff and having repair stock for the old stuff. Another big challenge for us was how we're going to get all of our users trained. For every school and administrative site that we have a number of users that are there, like principal, deans, and such, that we go out and they actually come in our office now and they get trained at our office. So how did we get through all of this? Well, we planned it out. We started out with evaluating each site. Here is a picture, I know you guys can't see the details on it, but this is a picture of our network infrastructure and the way that our network is laid out, where everything is. Most of what you see there is a 1 gig connection from site to site, with some 10 gig connections, the darker lines that are back to the center that are 10 gig connections. So we've got a pretty good infrastructure and a network that we can ride on. Here's a little bit more detailed view, and this is what we did. We kind of went through every single site. What we did is we color coded it. And this is up on my wall in my office, and we look at it all the time and see who we're going to do next, who's done, where are we going. For sites that we're not putting a server into, we say, we got to find some place to push the video to. We try to get it to a neighboring site that already has a server there. So this is, as we go and as things change, we update this and change it, and we evaluate the sites and figure out what we're going to do with them. And during the planning process, talking with Milestone and with my background in technology, we decided that we were going to split off the 3 main services that support the core part of Milestone. So we've got a management server, a SQL database server, and the event server. They're all on 3 different servers and are on virtualized VMware servers. This allows us to dynamically change the resources that we're able to provide to those systems. So when things get upgraded, as we put more load on the system, we're able to provide the resources that those servers need without having to put in a new server. We designed our rights management with the roles and Active Directory integration for our organization right off the bat to mimic what each site does. So each site gets its own rights, and then we have a role with that same name that's associated with it in Active Directory. We then went to Active Directory and we said, okay, well, we've got a group that's associated with the role. They have the same name, so we know what we're dealing with there. We designed our Active Directory with a couple of different OUs here. We've got the VMS OU, everything that has to do with Milestone and how we have this integrated is in these organizational units. We've got all the site groups, so you go into the site groups and you create policies for each of the, or in those groups for being able to push down Active Directory policies down for it. We've got the users in a different organization, so that when a person moves from one site to another, you can go and find them in the user's organizational unit. And then we got the VMS servers in another organizational unit. That allows us to put in policies on the servers. For instance, not to live virus scan to impede performance. In our camera grouping inside the Milestone Management Client, we did it very similar. We organized it by site. So starting with one site, the root underneath that site has all the cameras that are at that site and it's associated to it. We then took the cameras that by device type and we grouped them underneath device type and inside different folders so that we can quickly go in and change settings across all the different or all the same devices at that single site. We also created the groups that had our cameras split off for interior and exterior so we can quickly go in and make motion setting changes based on, being able to, a lot of trial and error really, and we had a lot of, we kind of got a base number from the system sensitivity. So we go in and then we fine tune afterward. Then we decided we need to schedule this stuff out. And once we scheduled it out, we used two sets of criteria. One was we're going to get to the sites that we can get to the quickest and easiest. And that had to be the newer sites, right? That's where we're at and where we have an existing presence in a controlled environment, an ER space, where we have twisted pair cabling as a core infrastructure there, so that we're able to quickly go in, take out the DVRs that we had in there, put in Sony encoders, put in a server, and get recording right away. Very minimal downtime on that. Our second criteria is that the very, very old sites that need to go through modernization projects got to go through a complete upgrade, where they got all new infrastructure, they moved our equipment into a controlled space, we put in a server or rack, and it gets designed out by us so that it gets done the right way. Our current deployment process today, we're at 18%. I got 355 up there, and we've got 64 of those sites that we're already doing VMS at. We just started our third year of doing this. And you'll notice that on the right-hand side here, we've got a lot higher percentage of cameras than we do of sites. And that's because of that low-hanging fruit stuff that were the easiest sites we got to first. We're able to go in and get a large number of cameras because it was newer sites. We were able to go into the sites that were recently done with DVRs, change them out really quickly, and get a large number of cameras onto Milestone fairly quickly. Today we've got 44 active HP DL380 servers that are recording servers that are recording 64 total sites. My trainer, Lori Dart, she's trained over 300 people on how to use the Milestone X Protect smartphone. Some of the struggles that we've overcome is ensuring that when we do these changes and stuff across a Milestone management client, making sure that the rights are correct, making sure that when we go in and we do stuff with different cameras and people, you know, with as many cameras as we got, and as large as the system that it is, we need to quickly go in and make sure that everything's right. So we had a problem with trying to figure some of that stuff out. Does everybody have the proper rights that we want them to have? Storage. How do I know with all the storage that I've got out there, what's going on? Milestone really didn't give us the tools that we really wanted to see and need to see exactly what was going on all of these different storage volumes and how multiple Milestone recording servers were sharing storage. How did that look? Milestone performance media overflows and dropping frames. What's going on out there? Going through logs, you can kind of see it, but there's a lot to go through. But we needed something easier, something quicker that we can just kind of go to, see what's going on out there, and understand it, be able to go and be able to diagnose if there was a problem. Early on, maps on the event server were unstable and very resource intensive. We had some real big problems, and maps was one of the big things that a lot of our end users loved. They were able to monitor video and be able to follow somebody through a facility using a map. They were just loving it. And then device and camera naming. The default device camera naming that Milestone gives you was kind of hard, especially going through logs. We had 54 camera ones, and it had the IP address on there. They're all different IP addresses, but we couldn't figure out, well, by IP address, you have to go back and manually look, see where that IP address came from, and try to figure out what site that was from, try to find that camera one, and see what was going on with it. So we created a lot of custom work, custom SQL database work, where we go into the Milestone management database, and we go in and look and see what's going on. This is our page here that is off of our internal website that checks the roles through SQL. It makes sure that the roles are correct. And if they're not, it shows up in red. So then we look at that and go into the management client and say, okay, what's going on? I've got a problem on a device and a PTZ at this site. So we go into the device tab on the bottom of the management client. We can see that it's not visible. With PTZ, you go in and PTZ controls weren't enabled on this particular camera. So we're able to fix that very, very quickly. Make sure that everybody has the rights that they have, or are supposed to have. Camera device renaming. We go in and we created a custom script to go in and change what Milestone gave us by default when we import the device. And we changed it to something that was more relevant to what we use. That first number there is our site number. That number belongs to a specific site. Second number is camera 2. And third number is the device type. We know that's a Sony EP154 encoder blade. This made it a lot easier and a lot quicker for us to go through logs and get a lot more information out of those logs pertaining to the camera, which enables us to diagnose problems a lot quicker and keep the system up and running and reliable. This is our site and server page. When you go to and click on a site on our intranet page, this is one of the pieces of information that it brings up. It has a map, shows you where it is. For such a large school district that we are, that was really important for us. It tells you how many PTZ and fixed cameras that are on there. The important thing here is that we get a phone call from somebody saying, hey, we need something. We can tell how many people and who's trained there just by that little red circle there that shows you the Milestone symbol. And up in the right-hand corner, and it's hard for you to see, so there's a number 3 up there. So at this particular site, we've got 3 people trained here that know how to use the system. So we get a call from somebody that doesn't know how to use the system from the site. We can let them know, hey, listen, you've got this person and this person trained out at that site. Why don't you ask them for help? They know how to review this video, and they know their campus better than we do. So it's a lot better having somebody trained out at that site than it is for us to do review. We also have a lot of information on the server that is at that site doing the video recording. At this particular site, we have a storage breakdown, and you'll notice two different colors there on the right-hand bottom of the circle. There's two different colors mean that there's two different sites that are being recorded or archived to that drive. And if we hovered over it, you'd be able to tell what site is also being archived to. So with a lot of information on this page, it's all brought to us right to what we'll use every day. Custom storage views. If you want to look across and see what storage is doing for everything across the board in Milestone. We created a page that showed us what site the server is out there, and then we can sort by each one of these columns. The graphs that you see, the blue and the green, the box is what's allocated in Milestone. The blue is what's actually used. So we can come in and see how the system is performing if we're getting low on space, if there's any kind of storage problems that we might be aware of, brought to us really very quickly. Overflows. We wanted to see how many drop frames we were having, and if the systems were performing poorly or not. So we created a script that went into SQL and pulled out how many overflows. And then we talked with the guys that worked for me. I said, I want to know what they are for the last day. I want to know if there's a problem over the last 24 hours. I said, that's not enough. Let's get a little bit more information. Let's do 3 days, 7 days, and 14 days as well. So they put this together and gave this to me, and they also took it and put it in a graph. And the graph is really neat because now you can see by time, by hour, what goes on here. And this particular system, you can see that during the day, during most of the day in the middle there, where it's flat line, there's no media overflows happening. But right there at 11 o'clock at night, we get a spike. Well, what's going on at 11 o'clock at night? Well, we're archiving at 11 o'clock at night. So during the archive, during our live data coming in, our archive is being pulled off of that live as video is still coming in, and we know that our system's not optimal. So we've got to go back and take a look at this server and optimize those disks. So we can look into it a little bit further, but I know that this is a problem because Milestone's telling me that we've got drop frames out there, we've got media overflows. So this tells me where it's happening, why it's happening, just points me in the right direction so that I can go and diagnose it and fix it. Milestone's really helped us out. As a lot of people stood up here for the last 2 days, and has already said, we all know Milestone's done some great things compared to what we had in the past. We get a lot of great feedback back from all of our users when we switch them to Milestone. They just love it. It's so much easier to use, quicker to find. If there's an incident that happens, they're not reluctant to go look. They just go get it now. It's just easy for them to do. Moving to Milestone also gave us a huge ability to dynamically change what we were doing. We were able to add storage if we needed to get retention times longer. Before, it was a big mystery with the DVRs. People would call up and ask us for video, and we'd say, we need video from 2 weeks ago. You guys have it? The answer was always the same. I don't know. Maybe. It may be there, it may not. Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. So you roll the dice and get lucky. Now we know what we're getting. Now we know if they call up and say, we need video from 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, or a month ago. We can tell them, yeah, you guys are on Milestone. So anyone wants to talk a little bit more about this, here's my contact information. Also, please check out the Google groups, Expertech Experts. That's where some of us have been certified. I'm certified as a Milestone expert, along with a couple other people. It's a growing certification membership. But we started a group outside of Milestone, underneath the Milestone thing. It's just as a user group. And if you go to Google Groups and search for Expertech Experts, or if you want to write down the link, there's a few of us on there right now. We'd like to get a lot more input, a lot more people like we're doing these last 2 days, getting together, talking with each other. And this is a way for us to do this when Mips isn't going on. So please get on there and check it out, ask questions, post problems that you've had. This is not a place to sell things. Okay, this is really just for Milestone and problems that exist, and people to share their knowledge about Milestone. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Clark County School District.